Warning, this program is entirely fictional and made by a sole Canadian man. All characters and events in the show, including the host, even those that are based on real people, are entirely fictional. The following program contains mature subject matter. Viewer discretion is advised.
America, the land of the free, home of the brave, and the stupid, and the criminally insane. The United States has seen its fair share of gangbangers, mobsters, and psychotics who've roamed our beloved streets, causing untold chaos, destruction, and corruption. Tonight on Grand Theft Auto Biographies. Stolen valor, stolen dollars, and a whole lot of moonshine. Tonight, we ostensibly venture into the jungles of wartime Vietnam, only to emerge blissfully unaware that we never left the bogs of southern Florida. Addiction, seemingly to both alcohol and explosives, is the primary struggle for tonight's subject. A man who was rejected by the life he'd hoped for, and in return rejected the rest of civil society. A drunk, careless, and occasionally violent man who always seemed ready to lend a helping hand to psychotic killers all across the country. Phil Cassidy. This episode of Grand Theft Auto Biographies brought to you by my incredible supporters on Patreon. My goal for this channel is to eventually be 100% fan-funded, allowing me to cover whatever I want without having to rely on AdSense and appeasing the copyright gods. If you want to help this channel reach its Patreon goal, you can sign up today at patreon.com/GuinnessWalker and get early access to all of my work, access to all of the music from my shows and permission to reuse them in your own work, a download catalog of every episode produced for the channel, access to the patron-only Discord server for weekly game nights/movie nights with me, and your name in the credits. Help me reach my Season 3 goal so I can continue producing shows for you guys for a long time to come. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the show. Our story tonight is unmistakably an American one. From alleged service in Vietnam and Nicaragua, to an upbringing surrounded by alcohol, violence, and suggestive taboos, to becoming the most emblematic type of capitalist to ever grace this fine nation, a gun salesman. Phil Cassidy was likely born in Vice City, Florida, sometime in the early to mid-1950s, though records on his date of birth could not be obtained during our investigations. Exactly where in the city he grew up isn't known for certain, though it seems highly likely that it was in the trailer park of Little Havana that his sister Louise Cassidy would remain in for most of her life. Wherever it was that the Cassidy siblings were raised, it was hardly with much sensitivity or care. From a young age, presumably, Phil would be beaten by his alcoholic father. Most often when Phil was caught ogling his sister, or one of what was likely many cousins who may have grown up in the very same trailer park. His father's anger would to some extent traumatize Phil, who constantly sought love and approval from the elder Cassidy, despite never receiving it. What became of Phil's parents, or for that matter, what his mother's role was in his or Louise's upbringing is unknown. What is known, though, is that by what was probably his early to mid-20s, he would attempt to enlist in the army, and find purpose in his aimless existence up to that point. Depending on one's perspective, what happened next could be considered a strike of uncharacteristic luck, or the final nail in the coffin of Phil's hope to stay on the straight and narrow. Possibly already an alcoholic, though it's unclear when exactly he picked up this habit that he borrowed from his father, Phil would be accepted into the army, but assigned to serve in the catering corps. Though exactly what his detail entailed isn't known, we here at Weasel are confident in making some educated guesses. We believe that Phil had at some point become a competent cook, further evidenced by his knack for brewing near industrial-strength moonshine himself. Using his culinary skill, he became a cook for the army, possibly alongside another equally boisterous man who once claimed to have served with Phil in Nicaragua, Ray Machowski. If one takes Phil at his word, he may have also served, and we do literally mean serve, in Vietnam. He had at times claimed to know soldiers and veterans all across the Corps, and according to him, was responsible for dozens of wartime kills against communist enemies of America. In reality, it seems far more likely that Phil was only ever a cook for the real soldiers, and that his tendency to drunkenly boast about his wartime accomplishments was nothing more than an extension of his need to be accepted by his father. One can never truly know.
It was hell up on that ridge. We had bogeys everywhere, and ammunition was running out real fast. I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't tell what was going to happen, so I said to myself, Phil, I said, 'cause my name is Phil Cassidy. They don't award Purple Hearts to liberal pinkos. Do what your grandpappy did. Shoot everything that moves. I am proud to say I killed everyone there.
I'm Jenny Mitchell with MeTV News. And now for, what is it? Now for a patriotism report. MeTV has learned of some shocking news that our government is failing to look after veterans properly. In a move that will shock millions, people sent off to die by this country are now being denied pensions and adequate training. Inevitably, some veterans are turning to drugs and crime or worse. We spoke to one prominent veteran, Phil Cassidy, who served with distinction in several wars, who said, quote, I love my country. I love her like a woman. I've made love to my country. I fought and killed innocent people for my country, and I'd do it again if they'd let me. But since I left, it's been hell. No one wants to hire a man with a dishonorable discharge from the catering corps. I've done some bad things. I know I have, but god damn it, it was fun. Unquote. Then Cassidy fell over and began crying. I'm Jenny Mitchell, MeTV News.
Whether or not Phil truly saw action in any capacity remains unknown, but one thing that cannot be denied is his obsession with another American pastime: guns. Introduced to them by his family or perhaps his army buddies, Cassidy would at some point develop not only an interest in firearms of all shapes and sizes, but also a particular skill in shooting ranges around the city. According to Phil, this skill was a product of his time in the army, but many, including our own investigative team here at Weasel, believe that it was acquired more naturally, and that it was his drunken foolhardiness, not his lack of skill, that kept him from serving the country the way he'd wanted to. By 1984, Phil, now dishonorably discharged from the army, would move into an apartment in Viceport, not too far from his sister, now married to one Marty Williams, and still living in the trailer park. Knowing little else besides booze and guns, he would quickly take to selling weapons like a redneck to selling weapons. Phil would become fairly well known among illegal gun runners operating in and around Vice City quickly. He would attract the attention of Mexican-American gang, the Cholos, who sought to control all arms trading in the region, meaning Phil's operation had to go. Being a man who more often is too drunk to fight off dozens of armed thugs like some of the subjects we've examined here on this series, Phil would quite easily be muscled out of his Viceport apartment and forced to begin living at his warehouse nearby instead, even losing a payment owed to one of his new contacts after stashing it under the apartment's floorboards. This new contact would be corrupt Army Sergeant Jerry Martinez out of Fort Baxter, who would sell weapons to Phil, presumably on the cheap, in order for both to make a neat profit. When his payment is late due to the Cholos evicting Phil, Jerry would send a fresh recruit primed for indoctrination to collect the payment and unintentionally set Phil on a collision course with tragedy.
You must be Vic. Jerry told me about you. Hey, I used to be in the service.
Yeah, listen. He said you'd have some money for me.
Sure. Well, I ain't a bank. I don't have it on me, but I'll take you to it. I've been having trouble with them Cholo boys. Some of them have
What the hell is a Cholo?
Bunch of Mexican gangbangers, bad boys, trying to take over all the gun running in town.
Look, where's the money, Phil?
Yeah, well, funny thing, you see, it's like this. It's under the floorboards of my old place, but the Cholo evicted me and now I can't get to it.
I'll get to it. See you around.
He would see Vic again when Jerry Martinez ordered Phil to hand over a brand new Red Stinger sports car as a gift, which Martinez had Phil's stashed at his old apartment, now Victor's. Unbeknownst to Phil, Martinez had ulterior motives for giving the car to Vic, and not long after, Phil's new best friend would also be dishonorably discharged from service at Fort Baxter, when Vic's usefulness to Martinez is overruled by his own sense of self-preservation.
Hey, Vic, how you doing? Martinez wanted me to give you this. Don't worry, it's non-traceable.
Don't worry. Man, I'm getting too deep into this shit.
After being put back into the good graces of Martinez thanks to Vic's help, Phil would quickly become good friends with his fellow servicemen. Again working on orders from Martinez, Vic would help Phil to regain control of the gun running in Viceport by taking the fight to his main enemies in the Cholos.
Phil, where are you? Phil, it's me, Vic.
Oh, put your hands where I can see 'em, boy. You think you can come here and rob me, probably try to rape me? I know you're kind.
Phil, it's me, Vic, your brother in arms.
I'm gonna teach you a lesson. Lower your pants and prepare to cry. I'm gonna give you a shotgun suppository.
Whoa! Phil! It's me, Vic.
Oh, my.
Vic Vance.
Vic! Why didn't you say so? Good to see you, brother. Come here. Let me squeeze a fart out of you. Oh, I'm sorry about Bruce, man. He was the best.
Hey!
I can still see the smile on his face when he shot that little gook. Bang. Ooh, go to hell. Damn.
Have you been drinking?
What do you think? Listen, we gotta go. I got something to show you. Come on. Come on. Come on, now.
Hold on. You're gonna drive?
Phil would drag Vic all across town, attempting to track down a group of cholos, and in the process give Victor his first glimpse at the extent of organized crime and vice.
Oh, nothing. Felt for sure some cholo would be here. Those scumbags are always crossing the law. Let's not hang around here, Vic. Cops make me nervous.
I hear you, man.
Sometimes I skits out and kill a lot of them. Say, I know another place those damn cholos might be.
When the two eventually caught the trail of a gang member leaving the hospital in Little Havana, they would give pursuit, and Phil would demonstrate to Vic just how deadly he could be.
Cholo bastard! There he is! Cholo bastard!
Though Phil had temporarily beaten back the Cholo menace, thinking he'd established himself as a runner not to be trifled with, Phil would quickly learn his enemy was not about to give up without a fight. Through unknown means, Phil would learn of an attack planned on his moonshine stash, and find himself too drunk or too distraught to try and prevent it. Now united with his fellow dishonorably discharged, Phil would receive a welcome helping hand. No booze left behind.
Phil! What's going on? You're a mess.
I'm not drunk. I'm just resting my eyes.
Okay. So, what's going on?
My boom shines. About to get blown sky high by a bunch of angry scumbags. Hey, damn it.
What?
Yeah. Them cholos are gonna blow up my liquor. And there's so much of it at the warehouse, one match will blow it all the way to Tennessee. Tennessee, here I come.
Phil, come on. Let's deal with it.
The thing is, Vicky boy, my daddy was an angry man. He never ever told me I was special. In fact, he used to beat me, especially when he caught me staring at my cousin or my sister. You know what he said to me? He said I'd be better off dead.
And how exactly is this helping?
The tragedy of it is, I'm just like him. I am a drunk. I deserve to die. It should have been me instead of Zach on Hill 491, man. I'm coming home, Daddy! Yeah, Daddy, I'm coming home!
You're pathetic.
Thanks to Vic's quick action with a forklift, the two would manage to save most of his moonshine from the complete destruction of the warehouse. But a close call with defeat and arguably death wouldn't deter Cassidy from his dangerous obsession with the sinister concoction.
I could have sworn I locked this place up.
Phil, don't open the...
Daddy! Scheming cholo bastards body trapped my place. Ain't no use running. When that boom shine blows, we're all gonna die.
Get a grip! I'll get your damn liquor.
I'll back the truck up to the door. You load her up.
If Phil's near constant state of drunkenness wasn't enough, he would also partake in smoking marijuana with some regularity when hanging out with Jerry Martinez. Still technically working for Martinez, Phil would be obligated to once again accompany Victor in acquiring a shipment of guns being moved around the city, that Jerry knew about thanks to his position as a sergeant.
Hey, look who it is! Victor Vance! What's going on, amigo? You want some smoke?
Fuck you, Martinez.
Relax. You're so fucking histrionic. It's like hanging out with a bitch on her period.
You want me to fuck you up?
Whatever, baby. The thing is, you work for Phil. And Phil works for me. Which makes you my bitch's bitch. Figure that out.
Man, this shit is heavy.
So you had better play nice if you want to get paid, huh? Because if you don't get paid, then who's gonna look after your sick brother?
Fuck you!
Hey, change the record, baby. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. What did you expect me to do, huh? I didn't screw you over for fun. I was saving myself, and you would do the same, and don't pretend otherwise.
I had a career.
So what? You got kicked out of the army. Big deal. Hey, I told Phil about some guns I can sell if you can get them. Hey, Phil, don't smoke too much of this shit, huh? It'll make you trip out. Get paranoid.
Sure. Later, Jerry. Come on, Vic. This should silence any asshole following me.
After getting backup to ensure that the job went smoothly, Phil, Vic, and his two hired guns would assault the military truck en route to its destination, and steal the vehicle for themselves. It may not have been easy work, but it seemed the two army rejects had found a rhythm in their new criminal lifestyles, but nothing lasts forever. One night, while particularly drunk, Phil would accidentally spill to Martinez that he was having trust concerns following Vic's dismissal due to Jerry's deceit. Despite being told that the ramblings had been forgotten, Jerry would show up at Phil's warehouse not long after with one final job for him and Victor, to call them even for Phil's insubordination.
Phil, baby, would I screw you over?
Yeah, you would.
Bullshit! I wouldn't. Not to you, not to a brother in arms. Come on, give me a hug. Screw you over.
Nah, you'd never screw anyone over, would you?
Oh, look who it is. Saint Victor of Vance, the holier-than-thou killer. All these principles you go around shooting people.
I do what I gotta do.
Ooh.
After I trusted an asshole.
You enjoyed it, brother. Admit it, because you're a maniac, huh? I gave you a life.
Go to hell, Martinez.
See, Phil, I saved Vic, and I can save you too. Huh?
What does this scumbag want?
He wants me to go over to some warehouse and see if his merchandise is all there. That's all.
Hey, it's cool. Go with him, Vicky boy, if you don't trust me. But Phil, you owe me after what you said.
You said that was forgotten.
If you do this.
I'll explain as we drive, Vic. It's time for me to get another drink.
Phil and Vic would continue to do as instructed and walk straight into a trap engineered by Martinez. It seemed the two former army boys had finally worn out their usefulness.
Who the hell are these guys? Hey, fellas, Martinez
Yeah, Martinez said bye-bye.
Hot damn! Play fair, fellas. What about the damn Geneva Convention?
With no other options, Phil would begin to lay low, while the more proactive of the two went about evening the score with their former employer. He would even promise to Victor that he would remain sober, with his sobering brush with death reminding him of his own fragile mortality.
I think we've both outgrown our usefulness to Martinez.
Sure he wants us dead? Shitting asshole, I'm gonna lay low for a while. I reckon you should too.
Screw that. I ain't hiding from that piece of shit.
Remember, discretion's the better part of valor. Good luck, soldier.
Presumably returning to the gun-running trade and making new contacts to replace Jerry, Phil would continue operating out of Viceport, while Victor ran around Vice City making a name for himself and consequently making powerful enemies. Phil would put Vic in contact with his brother-in-law, Marty Williams, who was always looking for new muscle to protect his business assets. Through Marty, Vic would meet Phil's sister Louise, and the two would develop a bond, which eventually saw Vic kill Marty outright and become Louise's partner in business and romance. When Victor is eventually joined by his troublemaker brother Lance, and the two end up stealing an enormous shipment of coke from Jerry Martinez, they would draw the ire of the powerful Mendez cartel, and eventually, Phil's services would once again be called upon. Having no shortage of reasons to help his old buddy, Phil would rush to the Vance brothers' aid and help them to maintain control of their growing empire.
Comrade! Come here!
What are you doing here?
I heard there's gonna be a party, so I brought fireworks!
Where's Lance?
I love that guy! Yeah!
There he is, Mr. Victor Vance, the punk who needs our help.
What?
You grown any cojones yet, lady boy?
Yo, bro.
Come here, Vic.
What's up, man?
Your brother, man. At least one of you has something out here, and a lot down here.
So if you guys are ready, let's do this.
Hey, Lance. Come here, man.
Yo, bro, what's up?
What the hell's going on?
We're about to get hit by those Mendez guys. Thought we could use some of your buddies to crash the party.
What?
Help out. What, did I do wrong again?
No, man. For once, you did very right. Let's go deal with these pricks.
Yeah, let's pop!
Despite his best efforts to turn the tide of Victor and Lance's war against the Mendezes, eventually, a tragedy would befall the Cassidy clan that Phil could not possibly have planned for. Due to her connection with Victor, Louise would twice become a target of Vic's many enemies. Though her first kidnapping at the hands of Jerry Martinez had been thwarted thanks to Vic, the second time, she would not be so lucky. In the chaotic fighting between the Vance crime empire and the Mendez cartel, Louise Cassidy Williams would become yet another casualty, after being kidnapped by Mendez goons and presumably tortured at the Mendez estate. Vic would attempt to reach her in time, but arrived just moments too late to save her.
Louise!
Hey, Vic. You came for me. No one ever really did much for me before. That's sweet of you.
Hey, come on. Let's get you to a hospital.
I don't think there's much point in that.
Come on, Louise.
We could have had something special.
Yeah. No, we did have something special.
Make sure Mary Jo takes care of my baby.
Oh, Louise. Louise.
Phil would eventually learn the news and consequently break his promise to quit drinking, returning to the bottle for some inkling of comfort. When Phil was eventually approached by Victor, who had already killed Armando Mendez and now had his sights set on Diego and Martinez, he would jump at the chance to avenge his fallen sister.
Phil, I don't know what to say. I'm going after Diego Mendez. I wouldn't ask for help if I didn't need it, but I need it. There's an attack copter up at the base. If I can get hold of it...
You need a decoy. Then I got all the decoy you're gonna need.
With drunken passion, Phil would help Victor to break into Fort Baxter to obtain a Hunter attack helicopter, which Victor proceeded to use when confronting the pair's enemies downtown.
I can't believe she's gone. Sorry, Vic. She was a good soldier. A good sister, I mean.
Though Phil would be too inebriated to join the fighting himself, he would rest after a long year of twists and turns, satisfied that he'd done his part to make up for his many, many mistakes.
You're not gonna do anything stupid, are you, man?
We're breaking into a military base and I'm drunk. What could be more stupid? Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. Louise! Suck on that!
Following Victor's assault on the Mendez building and the death of both Diego and Martinez, Phil would move his operation into a junkyard in Little Haiti, a former site of Victor's empire, which was now being slowly dismantled. Phil would repurpose the lot into his own redneck compound and continue brewing his signature moonshine. At some point, he would even lose sight in one of his eyes, from his constant inhaling of the noxious fumes, but this hardly seemed to deter the man from his lethal habit. His gun-running operation having seen better days, Phil would begin collecting disability from the government at some point between 1984 and 1986. We believe, as he did, fraudulently. Though, given that we also do not know when Phil completely lost sight in his eye, this may have been the case initially, even if much later it was most certainly not. 2 years later, after the loss of his sister, Phil would still be living out of Little Haiti and selling heavy weapons to a discreet customer base, when he wasn't busy testing his own weapons down at a local gun range. Though perhaps unaware of the death of his old friend Victor earlier that year, he would be approached by a man present for Victor's murder, and ironically, the new contestant for replacing the Vance brothers as kings of the city's drug trade. When Tommy Vercetti, former Leone thug known in Liberty State as the infamous Harwood Butcher, arrived in Vice in 1986 to set up shop for his employers, the Forelli family, he would instead opt to establish himself as the new king of coke for Florida. In what was perhaps simply an attempt to increase his already rapidly rising notoriety, or just a move to make some quick cash, Vercetti would approach Phil with the offer of a job, on recommendation from safecracker Cam Jones.
Well, the best shooter in this town is a guy named Cassidy.
Is that so?
Yeah, a military guy, or thinks he is. I doubt he was ever in the army, but he certainly knows how to get a hold of guns. He'll be down at the shooting range.
Not looking to work for someone more incompetent than himself, Phil would challenge Vercetti to show him his own skills with a firearm, and be impressed enough to join his growing crew of miscreants and eccentrics.
You Phil Cassidy?
Why?
I'm looking for a man who can handle a gun. From this setup, I'm not too convinced.
Son, I can shoot a fly off your head at 80 feet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I learned it in the Army.
Fly shooting real popular in the Army? Glad I don't pay tax.
You trying to be funny, kid? Let's shoot!
Being fully on board for the robbery, Phil would help Tommy to locate a driver for the job by recommending the neurotic but highly skilled Hillary King. And with King's joining, the crew would be ready to take on their final task.
Things are starting to come together nicely here.
What's the plan, Tommy? Que pasa, amigo?
The plan is you keep doing that like a moron. Anyhow, we need a driver.
Tommy, I'll do it. I can drive.
You want Hillary, mister. Not some smart-talking law school chump. Hillary's a real deal. You ain't never seen anyone drive so fast. I'll give him a call here. Hey, Hill. It's Phil. How's it going? No, don't talk. We'll reminisce later. You want to do me a favor? I got me a guy from up north. Oh, no, I don't think he was in the service. But he wants a driver for a bit of action. Okay, I understand.
What'd he say?
Well, he'll do it, no problem. Well, there might be a little problem. See, he has abandonment issues. Seems he won't work for anyone who can't beat him. Something to do with his mama. Anyway, he wants to race you first. Said he'd meet you outside.
Slightly nervous for his first major armed robbery on a civilian target as far as we know, Phil would express mild concern for their plan prior to departure. But after sobering up enough to be useful, he would find his nerve and prepare for the job of a lifetime.
As you can see, gentlemen, this is going to be the easiest buck we ever made.
Tommy, seriously, you gotta consider going into law.
What the hell are you smoking, man? This ain't no simple plan. Well, who needs a simple plan anyway? Take communism. Now that was a simple plan. Didn't do Russia any favors, huh?
Calm down, all right? With a team like this, it's gonna be no problem. We got Cam on safe. Phil, you and me will handle security. And Hillary will drive the getaway car.
Aren't you forgetting somebody? Somebody who helped you to no end in this town? Somebody
Ken, that's right. Ken here, he washes the money for us, and he keeps the drinks on ice.
I don't understand what I'm supposed to be doing here.
Look, it's easy. Haven't you ever seen a movie? We walk into the bank, we wave the gun around, and leave very rich men.
The four men would travel together by taxi to El Banco Corrupto Grande in Little Havana, and after sending Hillary to find a hiding place and donning their own disguises, prepare to assault the building. Tommy and crew would burst onto the scene in dramatic fashion, and Phil would immediately take crowd control, keeping the concerned customers level-headed while Tommy and Cam went to open the safe upstairs.
This is a raid! Nobody move! Everybody up against that wall!
Phil, hold down the fort.
Wilco, roger that!
Come on, Cam, the vault's upstairs.
Despite his best efforts, Phil would be forced to kill one of the crowd when a panic button is pressed, and the group would be forced to work twice as fast, with VCPD SWAT teams on their way.
I told you not to touch that alarm!
Against all odds, 3 out of the 4 men, including Phil, would escape the scene unharmed, and much wealthier than just hours prior.
They're crapping themselves! Corrupt bastards!
Tommy, the vault's open!
Okay, we got the SWAT retirement fund. Let's get out of here.
Okay, you asked for it. You had your last chance.
They're storming the place! Take cover! Yeah, where's Hillary? I'll give him abandonment issues.
Hey guys, get in! I got you covered!
Following their successful robbery of El Banco Corrupto Grande, Phil would become endeared to Tommy, perhaps seeing something similar in him that he'd seen in Victor Vance 2 years prior. Whatever the case, Phil would invite Tommy to his compound to not only bond over their shared victory, but to continue expanding their business relationship.
Phil!
Run! Run! Ah, wait! Never get a naked flame too close to one of Phil Cassidy's moonshine steals.
Shit, Phil. Drink that stuff?
Hell, you don't have to drink it. Just a good whiff will set you off.
Listen, Phil, you said you could fix me up with some firepower.
Sure thing. There's some Mexican gun runner been doing me for business of late. He does his weekly run about now. Hey. Ram his hardware off the back of his trucks before he goes to ground. And you'd be doing me a favor while you're at it. Then finish him off.
With Tommy's help, Phil would re-establish his gun-running operation as the go-to for military-grade weapons all across the city, and it seemed for a time Phil was back on top and ready to kick ass and take names once more. Unfortunately for Phil, the specter of his father's abuse in the form of his crippling alcohol addiction would return once more to haunt him, and this time leave a very permanent scar.
Hey, Phil, how's it going?
Hey, Connie! How you doing? It's been too long.
I swear you should lay off that boomshine, man. It smells like paint stripper. Just make my eyes burn.
Shh, Tommy. Hey, come over here because there's something I want to show you. Something.
Oof, God, should I be able to smell that from way over here?
Don't you worry about the
Phil,
smell,
oof.
Tommy. You just watch this. Shitty, cheap madness or something. There's some more on the bench. Ta-da! Oh, damn!
In a violent explosion, Phil would completely sever his left arm from the bone, and forever be known as One-Armed Phil. We attempted to film this interaction using our traditional actors, however, the stunt double we hired was incredibly incompetent, and subsequently blew off his right arm instead. Rest assured, in all our other investigations, there could be little doubt that Phil lost his left arm and not his right, so please, do not get confused. With help from his new friend Tommy Vercetti, who luckily happened to be present when Phil nearly killed himself, Phil would make a full recovery, and even return to both gun running and putting in time at the firing range, presumably learning to fire all weapons from the hip. Sometime between 1986 and 1998, Phil would finally decide that he'd had enough of Florida and move to the dreary streets of the worst place in America, Liberty City. He would establish a legitimate gun shop in Staten Island's Bedford Point, selling legal weapons to the average American housewife whilst continuing to make illicit deals on the side. In fact, it seems entirely likely that even by this point, Phil's entire inventory, or at least large sections of it, came from his deals with groups like the Torrington-based Yakuza under Kazuki Kasen, and perhaps many others. He would even meet one of Liberty's most notorious residents at least once in 1998, Tony Cipriani, when receiving a shipment from the wise guy who'd formed an alliance of convenience with Kazuki's estranged wife, Toshiko.
Woo-wee! That's some damn fine artillery you got there, boy! You know, I do so much business at these docks, I should have set myself up here, not halfway down that goddamn island. Well, been a blast.
By 2001, Phil would do just what he said he would, and move his entire gun-running operation to the docks in Rockford, at the former site of the Staten Island ferry terminal. With seemingly increased success exporting his goods, Phil would comfortably settle into his niche as old age began to catch up with him, and likely believe his fighting days were far behind him. He would need to make one last stand, it seemed, however, as that year he would be attacked by a group of Colombians during their push for further control over the city's various illegal operations, and on recommendation by his old war buddy, Ray Machowski, be forced to hire local gun-for-hire Claude to help him defend his entire base from subsequent attacks.
Hey, Chad, over here! An old army buddy of mine runs a business in Rockford. We saw action in Nicaragua back when the country knew what it was doing. Anyway, some cartel scum roughed him up yesterday. Said they'd be back for some of his stock today. He's gonna need backup, and in return, I'll give you knockdown rates on any hardware you buy. I'd go myself, but the old sciatica's playing up. So, good luck.
Ray phoned ahead, but I thought there'd be more of you. Can't believe those yellow-belly bastards left me without proper cover again. Well, 3 arms are better than 1, so grab whatever you need. Those Colombians will be here any minute.
After fighting off the Colombians, Phil would begin regularly supplying Claude with heavy artillery for a time, and may have therefore played a substantial role in the Reaper Man eventually dismantling the cartel's new leadership when he took revenge on their leader, who also happened to be his ex-girlfriend.
Hey, if I teamed up with you in Nicaragua, maybe I'd still have my arm. If you need any firepower, just drop by and take what you need from the lockers. Leave the cash under the bench. Get out of here. I'll handle the cops.
For Phil, the fighting was finally done, but one final challenge lay ahead of him, and one he is probably still tackling to this day: franchising. Very little is known about the whereabouts of Mr. Cassidy today, or whether he's even still alive, but we do know that by 2003, Phil had expanded his legitimate gun-selling operation at least as far as the Midwest's Carcer City, proving that with a little elbow grease and a whole lot of moonshine, anyone can make it in America, even if you only have one arm, or something like that. Phil Cassidy was a man plagued by numerous demons. Childhood abuse, horrible role models, alcoholism, and poverty all characterized his early life, and most of his adulthood, though Phil was never known to have adopted his father's tendency to abuse children, especially seeing as Cassidy was never known to have had children himself. Though Phil could be said to have been dealt a rough hand, he sought to make the most of the bad situations he often found himself in when possible, even if to him that meant getting absolutely and completely shit-faced. This tendency to mask all pain with the stench of alcoholism, stemming almost certainly from his father, stayed with Phil for many decades, though it seems at least possible that following the loss of his arm in a freak moonshine accident, he sobered up, as he was not known for being a drunk whilst living in Liberty City. Phil was a loyal man who cared deeply for his friends and family, but whose own shortcomings as a failed soldier and an arguably hopeless drunk frequently interfered with his ability to be useful. When it came to helping himself, Phil could be said to be helpless, at least for many years. But when it came to helping others, he would always step up to the occasion and do what needed to be done to help the people he cared about. In fact, as a byproduct of his frequent inebriation, Phil was often overly emotional and expressed his appreciation for his friends in drunken ramblings on more than one occasion. Despite these things, Phil was in turn loved by many, including his sister, though the two were never especially close, perhaps due to his own strange proclivities, but most importantly to a man like him, his many friends. Phil Cassidy was also a far smarter man than most have given him credit for. Held back from his own ambitious goals due to heaps of psychological baggage, the man was nonetheless a savvy and incredibly effective entrepreneur. Having successfully sold his brand of heavy artillery for years on the black market, he remains one of the few people we will ever examine on this program to go from below-board criminal to legitimate American businessman. From Phil Cassidy's fully cocked gun shop to Cassidy's bargain firearms emporium in Carcer City, Phil established his brand and made his biggest passion his source of income for the majority of his life. Whether by blood or by sweat, or maybe a bit of both, one can never say that Phil Cassidy didn't work to get where he got. Despite all of this seeming praise in comparison to your average GTAB subject, we must also emphasize that Phil Cassidy, like all men with a criminal history long enough to wind up on this show, was a murderer, a lunatic, and possibly a war criminal. Though his own word is hard to take at face value concerning his actions in Vietnam or Nicaragua, it's clear that the man was responsible both directly and indirectly for the deaths of many dozens of people, even if one discounts his role as a Noblesque salesman of death. At the end of the day, Phil Cassidy is an example of just how easy it is for this nation to morph an otherwise model citizen into a common criminal, prepared to defraud his government and sell guns to the people. What could be more American? While Phil Cassidy's criminal record remains technically blank, seeing as he was never apprehended for his crimes or formally charged as far as we were able to find, we here at Weasel nonetheless always strive to bring you the truth, with only a little bit of corporate spin. Thanks to our investigative team, we have managed to compile what we believe is a fairly comprehensive list of possible or alleged crimes that Mr. Cassidy could have been charged for, but likely never will be, starting with possible war crimes in Vietnam or Nicaragua, or both. Gun running in the early 1980s. Illegally brewing moonshine. Conspiracy accessory murder when putting Vic onto a group of cholos holding his apartment. Accessory to prostitution when giving Vic a sports car to pick up one of Martinez's girls. Conspiracy accessory murder when performing a drive-by on some cholos with Vic Vance. Illegally storing moonshine at a warehouse. Conspiracy accessory murder, accessory grand theft auto, and gun running when attacking an army truck for Jerry Martinez. Accessory murder when killing the attackers hired by Jerry Martinez. Numerous murders when defending Vic Vance's crime empire during an attack by the Mendez cartel. Conspiracy accessory murder, destruction of government property, and drunk driving when helping Victor to break into Fort Baxter and steal a Hunter attack helicopter. Conspiracy to commit bank robbery while being recruited by Tommy Vercetti, and later when recruiting Hillary King for the team. Armed robbery, conspiracy accessory murder, and evading authorities when robbing El Banco Corrupto Grande in Little Havana. Gun running and conspiracy accessory murder when hiring Tommy Vercetti to take out one of his rivals and steal their weapons. Illegally brewing moonshine when accidentally blowing off his left arm. Gun running when receiving a stolen shipment of weapons from Tony Cipriani courtesy of Toshiko Kasen. Accessory murder and gun running when fighting off Colombians with Claude and selling him weapons. As we said, Phil was never actually charged with any crime, so as far as the law is concerned, these crimes will remain unpunished. It's hard to say if Mr. Cassidy will even respond to such accusations, seeing as most of his customer base is likely either not at all shocked by these revelations, or enthusiastically on the man's side. Whatever the case, Phil Cassidy serves as a perfect tale of American exceptionalism, from abused alcoholic bank robber to successful and presumably respected veteran gun salesman. If ever there was a true American hero, well, it certainly wasn't Phil, but try telling that to his many well-armed supporters. What leads a man down the road of illegal firearms dealing? Is it simply the abundance of death on every news station, billboard, and TV show you consume daily? Or is it perhaps simply the inevitable result of a good seed gone bad? We aren't here to say, my dear viewer, but one thing we can say with confidence is that America is a dangerous place. Stay indoors, people, but not before running out and purchasing a fully functional minigun from your nearest gun shop and mounting it to your roof to ensure your neighbors know you mean business. I'll see you next time on another exciting edition of Grand Theft Auto Biographies with me, your host, Guinness Walker. Thank you for watching.